everyone. Welcome to the fourth part of God's Big Story. So at Living Room Church on Sundays, we have been telling the Christian story of the Bible, of the way that we understand the world. So we started off with the green bead of creation, a reminder that God created this beautiful world and he created us and that we are good. And then the black bead, which reminds us of how sin and death and sadness came into the world through the fall when Adam and Eve disobeyed God. And then we looked at the red bead, which is a reminder about Jesus and how he came to set us free from sin and death and restore us to a relationship with God by dying on the cross, by dying in our place. And then last Sunday we looked at the yellow bead, which is a reminder of Jesus' resurrection and the promise of new life with God now that will last forever. So the story of Jesus' death, which is kind of reminds us, we remember that through the red bead, is actually a really sad story, and it kind of ends in this place of sorrow and despair, and Jesus' friends, his disciples, those who have followed him for years, just kind of all walk away. And they walk away in confusion and sorrow, just not understanding how this one who they trusted, this person that they believed was the rescuer who God had sent as the king who was going to redeem them and restore them to relationship with God and restore Israel to its former glory, that this person that they believed in and trusted in, they've just seen him be publicly executed on a cross. They've seen him die as a common criminal, and they've seen him just shamed and humiliated in front of the people that he supposedly came to save. And so that story just ends in this place of real darkness and kind of this sense of what has gone wrong? How can it all possibly end like this? And then last week on Sunday, we read from the Jesus Storybook Bible, the story that is called God's Wonderful Surprise. And it's the story of the resurrection. And one of the things I love about it is at the beginning, it kind of says, just similarly to what I've just said, that it starts by saying, wasn't Jesus the rescuer, the king that God had promised? It wasn't supposed to end like this. And then it just says, yes. But who ever said anything about the end? And that is the glorious, wonderful, surprising truth. The hope of the Christian story is that death is not the end. Jesus doesn't stay dead. The grave has no hold on him. Death can't hold him down. 3 days after he dies, Jesus is raised to life by the power of the Holy Spirit. And in this retelling, Jesus's friends, the women who go to the tomb to anoint his body on Easter morning, as we now celebrate, they are surprised, to say the least. They are shocked. And when an angel appears to talk to them about what's happened, the angel kind of berates them and tells them off and says, well, Jesus told you this was going to happen. Like, why are you here? Why are you looking for someone who is alive amongst the dead? This is not where people who are alive live. And the women just can't make sense of it. And Mary, one of Jesus's closest friends and followers, is so confused and so sad and thinking that some grave robbers have come and just nicked the body. She stays in the garden weeping. And she hears a voice, and at first she thinks it's the gardener, and she runs over and she's cross and she says, what have you done with him? What have you done with my Jesus? Like, where have you put his body? Tell me, because I want to bury him. And then, of course, she realizes in this moment, and it's one of my favorite moments in the whole New Testament, where Jesus simply says, Mary. And when he says her name, she remembers that nobody has ever said her name like that. There is only one person who knows her like that and who says her name in that way. And she knows that it's him. And she doesn't understand it, but she knows that somehow he has come back from the dead. He has overcome death and sorrow and sadness, and that he's alive again. And so she runs off, and she runs and she runs and she runs. And it's this incredible moment of like supreme joy and excitement where she doesn't understand, but she knows that her friend is back. And she also somehow knows that this has changed everything forever. And it says in the Jesus Storybook Bible, it says, does this mean that all the sad things are going to come untrue? So I just want to finish like our little reminder today, our recap, with just the question of what does that mean for us? What does Jesus' resurrection mean for us? And first of all, it means that death has no hold on us either. We don't need to be scared of dying. We don't need to be scared of what can happen to us in this life. The Bible tells us that Jesus was the first fruit, like he was the first, I don't know, strawberry on the strawberry plant, that he was like the first fruit of, meaning that there will be more who follow. So just as Jesus rose from the dead, his resurrection is the proof that we need, that we too will be raised, that death is not the end, that there is a life beyond this one where we can live with God forever. So that's the first thing, that Jesus' resurrection is a reminder for us that we too will be raised, that death is not the end for us. But the second thing is that Jesus' resurrection, just like it says in the Jesus Storybook Bible, is a reminder that sad things can come untrue, that we believe in a God for whom the natural order and way of things is not like it, he can overcome that. We believe in a God for whom nothing is impossible, that even death can't hold him, even death can't touch him. There's this amazing verse in the New Testament where it says, "Where, O death, is your victory? Where is your sting?" That it has been swallowed up by Jesus, that Jesus has swallowed up the power and the sting of death. And as Christians, as people who are following Jesus, then we have this resurrection hope that says that the way things are is not the way that they have to be. That when we see injustice, when we see pain and brokenness and illness, that we can pray with the power of the resurrection, with the resurrection life and hope of Jesus into those things. That if even death can come untrue, that if death is not the end, that if God can overcome our ultimate enemy, that actually nothing is impossible for us in this life. And for me, that is such a powerful reminder right now, that we have hope for all and every situation, that Christians are people that live with hope, that we believe in transformation, that we believe that no one is outside of the remit of God's grace, that we believe that people who are poorly can get better, that we believe that relationships that have broken down can be mended, and that we believe that whole lives can be transformed by the good news of Jesus. So the yellow bead today, probably my favourite bead, is this reminder for us that actually for this part of the story, that our lives on earth are so short and so fleeting, but there is an eternity that waits, where those that trust in Jesus, that trust in his death and in his resurrection, can trust that we will go to heaven and be with God. But also the challenge for us to be people who live now with resurrection hope, to be people who live now and pray now with the hope of the resurrection, knowing that God is the God of the impossible, and that he can bring hope into hopeless situations, that he can change lives that seem unchangeable, that is the God who we follow and the God who we worship.